Hey, it's Nick. James and I haven't talked in a bit, so we hopped on a quick call and caught up. We talked a little bit about 3D printing and some other topics, so hope you all enjoy it. And thank you to everyone who's used our Visoon affiliate link. We really appreciate that, and they've been a great partner for this podcast. So, Visoon creates amazing Keyshot assets that makes it really easy for you and I to just drag and drop stuff into Keyshot, not have to worry about materials and setting up a scene, just making a nice scene with your object. And of course, you can support the podcast by buying some merch if you like. Good way to get a little something in return. And yeah, you all know the deal. Give us that like, give us that 5-star, give us that review. I'm trying to think what's new. Maybe on YouTube, give us a comment. Give us a comment on YouTube. And yeah, let's hit that amazing intro by Kyoshi the Kid. Hey, welcome to Minor Details. I'm Nick.
And I'm James.
We're two designers across the country.
Sweating the small stuff.
It's been a little bit, James.
Yes, it has. It's been a long time. It's been
I think it's
ages.
like 3 months or something, but for you, I'm sure it's like 3 years.
It is a
tell
time
us about the time warp that happened.
Yeah, we now have another kid.
Congratulations,
son. Thank you very much. Since August, we have a son, Nolan. And it's been wild. It's been a wild ride. He's recently in the last couple of weeks, he started smiling, which is always that's like a great moment because like the just like compounded sleep deprivation and everything, you're just looking for like light at the end of the tunnel, and you just get that first smile, and it's like, oh, yes.
Oh, that's great. I guess, this is me being not very knowledgeable, but I didn't really think that at a certain point a baby would start to smile, I guess. I mean, I guess that makes sense, right?
Yeah,
they probably wouldn't smile as like, a month-old baby, right?
They pretty much have emotionless faces for the first, I'm trying to think of like the different facial expressions, but yeah, you don't get a smile unless it's like, just like a total random muscle twitch or something. But it definitely just feels like a total time warp. From then to now, it feels like years have passed. Because we're like every day, Allison and I are like talking about how we can like better manage our schedules and everything, and like where we're falling behind, and we're like, wait, we've only had him for 2 months. Like, we need to cut ourselves some slack. It's like it feels much longer than that. There's a saying that's on a mug of mine, because I have mugs that have sayings now.
As as all dads do, yeah.
Yes. It's actually from this toy company called Love Every that sends like developmental toys every 2 months. It's like a subscription service. But it says the days are long, but the years are short. So it goes by both slow and fast.
Right.
But yeah, man. So just trying to retain sanity.
Right.
But,
you told me about your coffee scenario nowadays.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so I feel like the last time I talked about my coffee habits, I was doing like cold brew or maybe AeroPress, and now...
Well, you're always doing something fancy.
Yeah, well, now I have a subscription to Cometeer, which is like they brew like coffee concentrate into aluminum capsules and then like flash freeze them. And so they arrive on your doorstep with dry ice packets inside.
Oh wow.
And the idea is there's a couple different ways that you're supposed to be able to brew them, but basically what I do is stick it in the fridge overnight. It like melts in the fridge, and then I pour it into a glass, pour some oat milk in, chug it, done. And like that was enough for a while, but now I've had to escalate to 2 capsules. I don't know how much coffee that equates to or how much caffeine, but it's a nice jolt. And I
What?
also what's that?
Well, I was just gonna say, I feel like the picture in my head is like you're like have a baby in one hand and trying to keep the toddler out of trouble with the other hand, and then you go in and you grab your commentier thing and you just like rip the lid off like with your teeth and just pour it in straight.
No, so what it is I at 4 a.m, Allison is like, take this baby. And so I take the baby, I have it in my arm, I have it sleeping. I have to keep it sleeping. And the challenge with sleeping babies is if you're not holding them with both hands, he could just randomly like fling his head back. Like they have like no control. And that would wake him up. And then that would just be like a catastrophe.
Right.
And so you're just like trying to like do as much as you can to control him. And so what I'm doing is like grabbing the commentier, putting it down on the counter, grabbing a butter knife and literally stabbing the top of it. And then pouring it into the glass. Yeah, it's real Rambo stuff.
Yeah.
But and then I also was just like, Allison loves espresso drinks and so do I. And I was like, but I do not have time. I can't do a Breville. It's too manual. So I was looking into semi-automatic machines or fully, or I think they're called super automatic.
Right.
And
where you just press latte and it gives you a latte, right?
Yeah. So there's this company called TerraCaf or Terra Cafe or something. I think they're based in Brooklyn. And they do a super automatic espresso machine, beans in the hopper, grinds them up, creates the puck, brews the coffee all within the machine, dispenses the coffee into a bin. Also has like a little hose that goes from the like brew unit out to like a cup of milk so you can do your foam from there. It's pretty cool. I got the TK01, which is their first one. I really want the TK02, but it's not out yet. But it's very like it's the first machine is very like corporate ID.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
And the new machine is more what would you say? Teenage engineering, or it's
I got to look it up here. So wait,
it's very sharp. TK02.
I wonder if could we do screen share? Is that a thing?
I feel like I've tried. Didn't we try that before? And I ended up closing the entire thing.
Here, maybe I can do it here.
Yeah, you should try it.
Give me a second here. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, so that's the TK01. It's a nice looking machine.
And if you aren't looking, it's a nice rounded cube, cube with some fillets on it.
For sure.
TK02.
It's very. I would say TK01 is very like. What is the 2010s like? Is there a name for that decade? 2010s, the
minimalism?
2010s. No, I would just say that like it's very like 2010
ID.
2010s ID.
Ooh, and the 02 is nice. You got
The TK02.
Definitely
I
more
don't know if it's
harder edges.
yeah. I don't know if it's showing up on the. I still see
Oh,
the TKO1.
oh, and technical difficulties.
Yeah, the TKO2 looks really nice. It's it's more expensive. Um,
I definitely
but
like this look a lot more.
super crisp, minimal. I think like one of the things about the TKO1 is that everything that you have to sort of grab and from is on the sides of the machine. So like the water tank and where the pucks, like where the coffee pucks dispense after they're brewed, everything is on the sides of the machine. But I think on the TKO2, one of the things they did was put everything on the front, which is like the side thing is definitely a pain point for me because, on a countertop, you're often trying to like consolidate things,
Mm-hmm.
sort of in rows. And so there's like a whole, we have like a coffee station. And so like having those doors open to the sides is kind of a major inconvenience. But I think the coffee is really good. And it's on the cheaper end, or like I would say like cheap to mid range of sort of super automatic espresso. The TKO2 is like definitely price, it's pricier.
1,500. I mean, yeah,
I
that's
don't know
like
if
a nice espresso machine. You get like a,
yeah,
but this one does
but
everything. So
it is totally what I don't know that I've ever said this on the podcast before, but one of the things that you start to realize about products, because I feel like there's often this sentiment of like, do we really need all this stuff? Do we need to save this time? Like, couldn't you just hand wash your own dishes?
wait. I am not, who says they
I
want to hand wash dishes for the rest of their life?
I feel like it's it's sort of like a green mindset of like we don't need all this fancy stuff. Like we just need to like slow
Yeah.
down.
Okay. Sure.
You can do your pour over. You can do your and like while I love all that stuff, I loved it before I had kids, and then after having kids, it's like the ability to just like press a button and walk away, like it's many children's lives have probably been saved by machines that are able to like automate these tasks, because it's just it's just one of those things where like you don't realize, you just don't know until you have kids. And and I'm sure it changes as your kids get older. Like I can get back into like the more artisanal like ways of brewing coffee. But for right now, it's just like, I just need a caffeine injection right now.
Yeah, that's. I mean that's a definitely a good observation. I would say like, yeah, I don't think everything. I understand maybe the coffee thing about that, because it's like if you want to make a nice espresso and like with a really nice espresso machine and you want to craft it and make it nice. But the dishwasher thing or like a Roomba, like I'm in full support of that. Like I don't want to be like mopping the floors because I think it's a better way.
Oh no!
But it's funny. I visited my family recently. It was my dad's 60th birthday, and
oh, happy birthday!
Yeah, happy birthday, Dad. And they kind of are almost more tech than I do. I feel like they have an Alexa in like every room of the house, and they're constantly like, Alexa, play some music, play some soft jazz. And I'm not a big Alexa guy. Like I'd rather just like play something from my phone. I don't want like Amazon listening in all the time.
Right. Right.
And they also have the Roomba. I think they have both the vacuum one and the mop one. I didn't even know that. I mean, that was like, I feel like that's a pretty new thing to have. It's crazy, man. It's like, because it just, the house is always clean. It's like kind of wild.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we have an Alexa, and really the best use case for it is, for us, is like setting timers while we're cooking dinner.
Yeah.
Like that's what we use it for constantly. And more recently been using it for reminders. But other than that, that's pretty much it. But yeah, no, and it's interesting. Maybe touching a little bit on the AI conversation. It's funny how, like, I feel like like my wife has sent me some things like the AI stuff, the like benefits of Chat GPT or some function of Chat GPT is starting to invade the uh, like Instagram, like the parent Instagram sort of like influence space where people are like, did you know that you can use Chat GPT to like plan your meals for the week and then write you a shopping list and like I used it. I was like, yeah, this is definitely, I mean, this is something that I'm totally inept at, and it is so nice.
The question I have, James, is did it give you the correct ingredients for your meals, or did it like give you 3 dozen eggs or something crazy?
Yeah, no, the meals are not that complicated.
Okay.
Have a grilled cheese on Thursday. What ingredients you need? Cheese, bread. Yeah. No, it's pretty awesome. And you know what I was using Google for today was looking up I was using Google Bard to look up patents.
Interesting.
Yeah, you can because there's Google Patents.
Right.
But I was having trouble with the search in the patent search. And like you can just type in a company and be like, what patents do they have? And I don't know if the accuracy is that good. Like I don't know if you're getting everything, but
sure.
It did give me some relevant things, and I was
like a jumping off
this
point.
This is sweet. Because like patent searching is really, it's like a craft.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean the whole idea of patents as a whole,
Oh yeah, we did an episode on patents.
It would be interesting to kind of bring that up in the future. I don't know if we need to talk about it right now, but
yeah,
I feel like lots of change, especially in terms of AI and just business stuff.
Totally. What's new with you, Nick? I mean, you had you decided to get some, I don't know, higher profile, highly qualified co-hosts for the last 2 episodes.
We had some good guests on, and that was nice. And yeah, I guess I've just been working. There's a few things. Look at this. See this?
Hey.
It's a Minor Details hat.
Nice.
I don't wear hats, so maybe I'll send this to you, James. But it's a nice, made out of like corduroy.
Yeah. I like how you say maybe I'll send you a hat to the co-host of the podcast with the logo on it. Maybe I'll send it to you.
Well, yeah. I can definitely send you one, James.
I appreciate it.
Got some nice mugs as well. And the mugs say, sweating the small stuff.
Nice.
I guess that's backwards in the video. I don't know if it's forwards on the YouTube, but we also got a white version too if you like a white mug instead.
Nice.
Just simple things. I mean, it's like, we've been kind of wanting to put up some sort of merch store for a while. It's not anything crazy, but it's a nice way to kind of support the pod and, get a little something in return.
Yeah, I need that hat because I've been wearing this Philadelphia Flyers, the hockey team, if you didn't know, Nick.
I did not know.
I've been wearing this hat mostly because I really kind of like the real super 70s logo.
Mm-hmm.
But I was wearing it on Halloween night in our neighborhood, and a neighbor that I haven't met, he was like, yeah, well, the Flyers are looking pretty good this year. And I'm like, I know who the Flyers are. I know about the team. I like the logo. I am not at all up to date on, like, I don't watch any sports really. And so I was just like, like, and then just like total mind blank. Uh-oh. Nick cut out on my end.
Stopped recording when you started talking about the Philly Flyers. But that was just the video. We got some audio there.
Yeah, whatever.
We'll cut it together. But
It's gonna be great.
in other updates, got this little bad boy.
Oh, baby.
I'm living in the metaverse. I got the Quest 3. Yeah, I gotta say it's quite an improvement. I mean, design-wise, it's nice. You know, it's much smaller than all the other headsets. You know, it has the 3 kind of pill-shaped eyes on the front, which maybe is my only, I guess, hesitation on the ID. But obviously, there's a lot of constraints there. I don't know what else you could do. Maybe a bigger shield there. There's many ways to
Has
solve that problem.
anybody like made it into a koala? Kind of looks like a koala face.
It
you know?
does. Yeah. I can see that.
I think the nose of a koala is probably my favorite form in nature.
I got to look up a koala nose. Is it just like a pill shape?
No, it's like it's kind of a blobby shape, but it's just like it looks like a mouse. Like you could make a computer mouse that looks like a koala nose.
Ooh, yeah. Wow, that's kind of crazy. Not gonna lie.
Yeah. Don't lie, Nick. Don't lie if it's about whether it's crazy or not. It's not worth lying about.
But I did want to kind of give a rundown of the Quest 3 because I think obviously people usually ask for a review from me. So I would say from using it over the past month or so, like it feels like it's maybe twice as good as the Quest Pro and 3 times as good as the Quest 2, which is crazy because the Quest Pro came out last year for 3 times the price. So I got suckered in on that one, but that's okay. I support Zuck and his metaverse plans.
This is the price of early adoption, Nick.
It is. I think the biggest thing for me, and probably for most designers, is just the quality of the pass-through. You can pretty much see everything, so much so that like I can sit down and type on the computer. I don't think you would want to do it for like a long period of time. It's not like that crystal clear, but it's enough for I can like Google something really quick if I need to, or like check my phone and send a text really quick. Like you don't want to do it forever, but it's like pretty nice. The other thing too is the hand tracking is really good. The controller tracking is really good. I think better than the Quest Pro, and it's so crystal clear that the user interface feels much more like that movie where they're like touching the screen. You know what I'm talking about?
Minority Report?
Yes. Mm-hmm. I just know the meme essentially, but it feels like that. It feels like I can reach out, grab a screen, and use my finger to actually touch the screen. Obviously, there's no physical feedback, but in any previous version, that it didn't feel natural just because I don't think it was clear enough or realistic enough. So yeah, highly recommend. I always like to get the Pro strap too because I think that always helps kind of the weight distribution. And
what's
usually
the Pro
get
strap?
It's this kind of plastic piece on the back. So instead of having like just a fabric strap that wraps around your head, you have this kind of structural thing that cups your head. And also like to get a nice facial interface. I don't have one right now. I don't think they've made any yet, but I always like to get like a leather one. So it's nicer on your face than the usual.
Nice.
But yeah, James, if you get a little Quest 3, then we can hang out in the metaverse together.
Should we start potting in the metaverse?
Did you see, there was that, when it first came out, there was the episode with Lex Friedman and Mark Zuckerberg in the metaverse. Did you see that?
Right. Yeah. Well, that was like beta for the facial stuff, wasn't it? Or is that like a thing now?
No, it's not a thing. It will be eventually, I hope. Um, but if you haven't seen it, it was a podcast where Lex Friedman and Mark Zuckerberg scanned their bodies with some sort of crazy photogrammetry system, and then, or I don't know the exact system, and then imported their bodies into, a blank space. I think it was just a dark room, and then used the Quest Pro, because the Quest Pro has eye tracking and face tracking. So whenever they look or they blink or their facial expressions move or they laugh, their avatar, their like scanned body also laughs in the video. And it's very convincing. And I'm sure it's even crazier in VR, because obviously you never get the full effect with just the 2D screen. So
Cool. Yeah, I don't think I watched the full interview, but I watched enough of it. I was like, this is insane.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know. It is incredible to think about how it's going to transform communication.
Yeah. I mean, it gets kind of crazy, right? Because like you think about the end result, and we've all just have scanned avatars in a virtual world. You start going down the simulation theory rabbit hole, like, wait, has this already happened?
Yeah. I wonder. Yeah.
The other thing I was going to talk about with the Quest 3 is it has I guess a LiDAR sensor, or not a LiDAR, depth sensor, which the Quest Pro does not have. But the depth sensor is really great because now you can essentially overlay virtual objects onto the real world. I think like originally Magic Leap was kind of the first, or not Magic Leap, Magic Leap, right? They had a depth sensor on theirs. I can't quite remember. Anyways, regardless, my point is like now, well, I think hopefully in the future,
Magic Leap,
I'll be able to like draw a chair and like set it on the ground instead of having to like kind of float it in the ground, right? Or like trying to adjust it, and I keep telling Gravity Sketch team they should add some gravity, to the Gravity Sketch.
They have a snap to ground feature.
That's one thing I want. And I also just want like snap to any surface,
right.
like the wall if I'm doing like a sconce or like a tabletop, or also just occlusion. Like if I sketch something in the studio and I walk around behind my desk, the desk in theory could cover up that geometry and make it even look more realistic.
Yeah.
And I think, I know these things kind of seem a little like small and silly, but the more realistic the design, the more, convincing it is, and the better you can kind of evaluate, a future prototype of it. I don't know. It's getting really crazy, powerful.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, augmented reality, it's just funny. Like, I was at a trade show a couple months ago, and it's funny how many, like, there's so many like gimmicks that are happening at trade shows all the time. But like, the thing, I've always felt like augmented reality kind of is like the most captivating of all of these newer technologies, just because like, I saw that there was this one booth that had VR for like their products, but like, especially in a trade show setting, like you're removing yourself from the conversation and from the person in front of you, like, stepping into VR. And I just feel like if we can get to that AR moment where we can still have that face-to-face communication, but there's like overlaid on top of that is a bunch of information. and just and so that's like enriching the interaction rather than removing you from it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this future's gonna be wild, man. I did
You
think
could
of one.
see people's power levels, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because like, it can get a little dystopian. But I was like looking at something the other day that maybe it was like a TikTok or a reel where someone was talking about these websites now that you can upload a photo of someone and it scrapes the internet and figures out who the person is. I don't know if you've seen these or not.
Hmm.
But there's like, multiple, and it uses AI to kind of figure out facial recognition and stuff. But you kind of extrapolate that into AR where you like walk around and like everyone's Instagram handle and like follower count is like above their head, which it's
Oh
like the one
no.
Black Mirror episode where the girl's like trying to get 5 stars and then she goes all the way down to 1 star,
Oh yeah.
like her social
By the way,
media.
how does the Minor Details podcast feel about threads now?
Oh, I guess it's been a bit, 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were testing it out last time.
I've stopped using the app completely.
I pop it open once a week just to check on it.
Oh no, Nick, you've gone. What? You're back.
Okay. I'm sorry, James. I don't know what's going on with this.
That's all good. No worries.
But yeah, threads. I have a conclusion to my theory on threads,
Mm.
which I think was probably a very similar theory to how we initially thought it, which is I think Instagram people and Twitter people are just different people. Like,
Yep.
The people trying to post Twitter content on threads are just Instagram people trying to post Twitter content. And they're not, I don't want to say they're not good at it, but Twitter people are way better
They're
at
t-
writing tweets.
They're too vapid and shallow to post anything funny.
But to be fair, also, on Twitter, people don't care about pretty pictures. Like, so it goes both ways.
Yeah,
That's my conclusion, is that there's just different communities on different apps, and it's hard to really bridge that gap.
totally. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
We'll see. You never know.
I don't
I mean,
have.
Elon's, could cr- burn the servers down. I don't know. He's always doing something crazy.
Yeah, I don't have time for much of anything. Much less like pontificating about like the daily mind farts that go through my head. But yeah, I don't know. There's something about threads. Just like from the jump, it's like the app, first of all, like the AI or the UI is like almost too clean. It's like too bare in a
Mm.
way.
You want it to be a
Um,
little bit more grungy or messed up or something?
yeah, I don't know. It's like I feel like it is like peak minimal.
Yeah,
It's like as minimal as it can be, and
it's
there's
nice.
something
It's,
about that I don't like. It's it's like
maybe it's
there's no sense of character.
That's a good point. Maybe it's kind of like it does feel almost like the equivalent of, I guess, the next iPhone coming out, where it's like, okay, yeah, you perfected it. Like, it's nice, definitely, but it's not something to talk about, I guess,
Yeah, and I mean I'm sure that was like a deliberate decision,
Right. The,
to be
the
that sort of
masses,
clean, because
right, the masses appreciate that.
the original Facebook, I remember the UI being such like a revelation in how minimal it was, because before that was MySpace, and MySpace was just like that was total post grunge Nickelback, like just so chaotic because people had like much more control over what their profile looked like, and that's where like giving people the power to design their own things, sometimes it can either lead to something really unexpected and cool, or it can lead to like the most like grotesquely just, I don't know. I mean, now we would probably look at like those profiles that were just like, overloaded with aesthetic and be like, this is kind of amazing. But when Facebook came out, it was like, you know, everybody's profile looked immaculate. The app was so minimal. Um, it was really nice.
Yeah.
But then Facebook now is like totally overloaded with buttons and features. So it's funny, like looking across the different like Facebook apps or Meta apps or whatever. What's the parent company now? Is it Meta?
Yeah, Meta.
Like how they're treated differently, and Threads is just like bare bones.
Yeah. It's the feature creep, I think. I think it's.
Yeah.
I mean, this is. I don't know. This is a
But what's
large
like the
idea.
opposite of feature creep? I mean, it's like it's like austere. I don't know. The that app just has no flavor.
Um.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like toasted bread, no butter.
Oh, that's a good. Well, we'll see. We'll see. You know, who know? You never know. Maybe Threads comes back around. Sometimes it takes a while for these things to catch on.
Okay, we all know you have stock in Meta. Okay, Nick.
Yeah, no, I got way more stock in Elon. So,
Okay.
but I don't discriminate. Listen, we enjoy all the builders here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, another. Oh, I did want to just plug this right quick since we were kind of talking about the VR stuff. I am speaking at the Gravity Sketch Around conference, November 29th. It's just it's a virtual thing, so you'll be able to see it on your computer, and yeah, go check it out, gravitysketch.com. And I think
Can you see it in VR?
they should do that.
Is there a VR audience? I mean, come on.
I don't know why we're not doing that. I gotta call up Danielle.
Everybody should have to draw their own chair to sit in the auditorium.
That'd be kind of a crazy like demo to do for like
Yeah.
a class.
Yeah. That's cool.
One other update for me. And
Go
then
for it.
We can talk about. I know you have a little fascination you've been dealing with. So, I've been trying to get my newsletter to be more consistent. In other words, I've been writing. I've been forcing myself to write some more. I don't know if you ever got to read my one I wrote. I guess maybe it's been 2 months now. It was about
12
writing.
years ago? Yes, I think I read that.
Gosh. But yeah, I just thought it was like an interesting, it's an interesting endeavor for me. I know we have mentioned writing a little bit on the podcast, but it's a great way for me to really get my thoughts out on the page and formulate them into a much more cohesive and coherent, I don't know, thesis. Podcasting is great. It's like casual and fun. We can riff on stuff, but I feel like writing has started to help me form more thoughts around complex topics that is much harder to do any other way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's I applaud what you're doing. I don't do a lot of writing. I probably should. It would help clarify a lot of thoughts in my head. What do you find?
It's so hard.
Yeah, what do you find to be the biggest challenge? Coming up with a topic, or where to start, or
I think it's kind of the structure and the edit. I think another part is like I really struggle with writing and editing at the same time. You should always write first and then go back and edit. And I struggle with like writing a sentence and then deleting it and then rewriting it and then that is not. I need to really train myself to do better about that. And then also just like form a structure in a coherent like idea. Like I feel like I can go off on tangents and
yeah.
I don't know,
Oh man. Whenever I had to write
it's my
papers,
weakness for sure.
whenever I had to write papers for like school, they always started like 2 a.m. the night before. It's just like agony of like where to begin. Like, and yeah, I am certain that I'm a terrible writer. Um, I need a lot of editing. Luckily, yeah, growing up, my mom was a good editor, and now my wife Allison, like she did a lot of writing in her career. She's like an excellent writer. Every time she reads my writing, she's like, what is this? What do you do? Like I have this like habit of writing in like ye old English style like grammar. I don't know. It's very weird.
You're like, alas,
Yeah.
I came up with the design. Oh man.
Yeah, it's weird, but no, I think it's like I do think it's important. It seems like a lot of the great designers do a lot of writing.
Yeah, I think a lot of them do it kind of at the end of their career where they're, kind of settled in and are more knowledgeable. But I'm doing it now because neither of those things, and I'm sure I'll make
I
mistakes, but it's
remember
okay.
listening to an interview once with Kum Rasheed where he talked about at some point early on in his career he taught a college course on the history of ID, and he had to like basically design the course from scratch, and that helped. From what I remember, what he said was that like sort of helped to figure out like his own point of view.
Mm.
That was an aspect of it, was like really really engaging with and understanding like how other designers approach their work throughout history.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like there's a saying like that where it's like, if you want to learn a topic, teach the topic, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um,
That's all I've been
well,
doing, just, hanging out and writing.
well, while you have been, probably printing 2D, I've been printing 3D. I, uh, I, so I've, I saw all this buzz about the bamboo printers. I think I saw it from Spencer Nugent, Sketch a Day, that he had some Bamboo Labs printers, and he was just raving about them, that they're like so fast and the quality's really good. And so, got to RemCon. We have one printer. It's like a Creality. It's not a very fast printer, but it's got a large print bed. But, I was just like, can we get another printer? And I got the go ahead. And so I bought a Bamboo, the Carbon X1C with the AMS, the sort of carriage for the filament that helps with
Does it change?
loading the filament.
Does it change the filament too? Can you do different
Yeah,
colors?
it loads and changes the filaments. So yeah, so some of the benefits of the Bamboo printer. Obviously, we're not sponsored by Bamboo, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm trying, James. I'm trying.
it can print multicolor. So if you have multiple filaments, different colors, you can go into the slicer, their slicer program, and designate different parts of your print as different colors. Synced with your AMS system, and say, because it'll know if you load their filament, it'll like automatically know what color it is, what type it is, everything. Right. But if you load another filament, you just have to input that in. But then, yeah, it'll print multicolor prints, which is wild. The only thing, it does seem like kind of a wasteful way of printing. I mean, unless, if you were doing it in large quantities, because basically what it's doing is it's like every single layer, it's switching from one filament to the other, but every time it does that, it purges material and kicks it out, and you just end up with like tons of purge.
Right.
But it's, the thing that I love about it is like one of the most reliable printers I've ever had and I've ever experienced, and it just like super easy to set up and use, and it's so fast. It's crazy how fast it is. Like 4 times the speed of like any printer I've ever used, which is huge.
That's
I mean,
wild.
you're talking about like, a like 4-hour print versus a 16-hour print type deal. It's just it's insane, and you can change the speed levels. I did have some issues adjusting the speed once. It just like, I don't know if I didn't have it calibrated correctly, but it's wild, and it's totally just like reinvigorated my love of 3D printing, because I've had a MakerBot for a while, but I haven't set it up in a long time, and
It's
I
it's
I always I liked MakerBot. I think the slicer software for MakerBot, everything was designed to be very approachable and sort of consumer friendly, but like, and I didn't have as many issues as some other people with like getting prints off that thing. And there's little hacks and things that you can do.
I will say, obviously, for the era that they were producing in, it was great. It was good.
They were just like way ahead of the curve of like doing like wanting to do a consumer focused 3D printer.
But it's been like 6 or 7 years since then, so
yeah,
things have come a long way.
But the Bamboo Labs, I'm just like, I'm in love with 3D printing again. And one of the things that I've been going down the rabbit hole of on YouTube is just designing for 3D printing. And I found especially one account that's of a print farm, so basically just a gigantic, like, I think they have an old, like, aircraft. What's the thing
hangar?
that I'm looking for? Hangar. Yeah, they have a whole aircraft hangar in Boise, Idaho, I think it is, full of 3D printers, and they're mass manufacturing 3D printed parts, which I didn't know that there was like an industry for that, but apparently there is.
Yeah.
And apparently it's doing pretty well, because people have aircraft hangars full of 3D printers. So this company I think it's Slant 3D. Their like CEO does videos constantly talking about designing for mass manufacturing 3D printing, and like the do's and don'ts and tips and tricks. And it's just been really interesting, because for the longest time, whenever I've approached 3D printing, I've been like, oh, I'm just going to design this part. It's for another process, but I'm going to get a feel for it in 3D printing, and it's just going to be one part. And so I'm not really that concerned with like optimizing it necessarily for 3D printing. But just like, I don't think I ever really thought about like the day would come where 3D printing as we know it, in sort of the FDM style, and I'm sure that there are SLA print farms as well, but just like, how do you optimize for that process if you're making parts in bulk?
Yeah.
And it's been, I don't know, it's just like, it's been fun, because I think as much as constraints can feel kind of frustrating at times, I mean, I always love understanding the constraints so that you can figure out how you can adjust yourself, and you can get the design you want out of the process. And so to me, it's just been fun to go down that rabbit hole and to like think about it as a mass manufacturing process.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched some of these. You had posted them in the Discord. I had watched some of them as well, and I think there's a few things I like about this video. One is the CEO is literally making amazing content on 3D printing, and he's also, as a result, promoting his business. So I think it's just like a really good, smart business move that you don't really see that often. Like, You know, you don't see like, I'm trying to think of a good example, but like essentially he's telling you all these amazing things you can do with 3D printing. And as an engineer, you're like, oh, that's great. I wonder who could make these parts. And he's like, oh, I just happen to own the print farm. And it's like, oh, it's very smart, very smart. But the one video I had just played it recently, was every part that he analyzes. Like the one I was watching was, he was like, sometimes you need a vent to like cover a fan or something in your product, and most vents are made out of mesh or wire or something like that. But with 3D printing, you can do all kinds of unique things. And he started showing more different, applications where you can add a hole, but the hole like goes up and around or comes off the side. So you're like taking air in from the side instead of the front. And he was just like explaining all these things that 3D printing can do that traditional manufacturing methods cannot. And I think that was like the really kind of unique and insightful thing that I got out of it.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, of course, when you're talking about mass manufacturing, you're always trying to think about like, how can you reduce the steps that it takes to, once the part comes off the machine, to be ready to ship. And so like the idea of like excessive support material is like, it's not a great thing for mass manufacturing 3D printing. So like he's often talking about ways that you can avoid using a ton of support material, and so how you can orient your print. And like the big thing that I got out of him was just like chamfers, like chamfering something upward instead of like, obviously like a right angle, like cantilever, you're printing it onto nothing. You're not connecting it to anything.
Right. You need
if
support.
You were to do something that was like L-shaped, like an L shape upside down. But if you connect that with an angle, like that angle upward is going to like give you all the material you need to bridge that gap, because it's just going to take it essentially one step at a time. And you could do it with a fillet, but one of the things that he was pointing out is just like curves, because of the layering, the height of the layering and everything. Curves don't always look so great on 3D printing because it expresses those layers much more. It's not to say you can't use them. And with the Bamboo Labs printers, like the layering is like so tight and so clean, like it's not as bad as some other printers have been in the past. But just like little things like that. I saw somebody, I think it was a different video, but I saw somebody taking like, they had created like this threading system with like threads coming off, or like threaded things coming off of the side, but all of the threads were just like, it was like 3/4 of the cylinder with the thread, and the other part was like up at an angle.
Yeah.
And so you could print that whole thing without support and like, thread a nut onto that. And it's just, I don't know. It's cool to, like, especially with this guy's videos, it's fun to watch him because it's just like so much, it's like an inspiration database.
Right. Yeah.
Cause like, I wish I maybe there are, but I just don't know of other manufacturing people that are taking their process and going like, and here's how you would do this in this process, like meticulously breaking down like different scenarios of how you would approach the same problem.
We probably should shout this guy out. What's his name? Or what's
the company is Slant 3D.
So that's, you just search Slant 3D on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing too.
Well, go ahead.
I was just going to also mention that I feel like there has been quite a few, I guess, 3D printing houseware companies popping up. I don't know, I feel like obviously gantry's been around for quite some time, and they were definitely a pioneer in the space. But like, there's a lot of little kind of small shops now that are 3D printing objects, and there's obviously Wooj, our friend Wooj in Brooklyn. They've done some 3D printed lamps, but the one I was looking at recently was this one called Human Home, which apparently seems to be based in LA. But the unique thing about this one that is kind of different than the other ones is like they aren't mentioning 3D printing. And their parts are 3D printed. And it's interesting kind of the marketing perspective of like, okay, maybe we do 3D print these objects, and they're beautiful objects. They're really nicely printed. They're lights, a lot of lights. And there is some kind of unique things, like there's a lamp that when it turns on, it kind of creates this gridded structure, or linear grid, or I guess linear lines, which was kind of similar to my, pixel light idea, where you can only really achieve those effects with 3D printing.
Yeah.
But they don't even mention it. It's just like, I think it says something like engineered polymer, which is kind of feels like a little bit of a weird marketing term, but whatever.
Yeah. It's cool. Yeah. I mean, it's good to see somebody approach it that way, because like, yeah, I mean, maybe printing has gotten to the point where the average consumer is not just like, unless you point it out, they're not really thinking about it.
Right.
They might just think like, oh, that's a cool thing.
And it's like nice quality nowadays. It's not this like weird, crappy, 3D print stuff now. It's like really fine and beautiful looking.
Whereas I do feel like in the, we talked about the footwear, like 3D printed footwear recently.
Oh, speaking of that.
And I do feel like they're
talking.
Celebrating. They're sort of like celebrating the process as like a novelty.
Well,
what do we got? What do we got here?
I got myself a little pair.
Oh.
Of Zellerfelds, I guess. And these are designed by Kadar Benjamin, a friend and I think also a fellow listener of the pod.
Yeah.
They're kind of wild, man. This is my first time. You got some too, right? Did you? I
haven't gotten any. No.
Okay. Maybe there was something there. I thought Kadar said he sent you some, but I was not sure what to expect with these because they're really squishy. And I was like, are they going to be, are they going to feel comfortable? And they are comfortable. It's a wild thing, man. I wish you could feel them yourself, but that's
cool. You've worn them?
I've just put them on once. I haven't really worn them around. I probably could. Maybe I should.
You should do it.
Good test drive. Part of me was like, maybe I should take photos first. I don't know. I gotta figure that out.
He designed them with AI as an aid, right?
Yeah.
That was part of his. The design of the shoe is designed in conjunction with AI.
And I think Kadar was the first one to really do it. He was obviously one of the first ones with access to all the Dolly, Midjourney stuff.
Yeah, that's sweet.
So it's crazy to kind of see that come to life.
Yeah. But I was gonna mention. My Allison and my anniversary was recently, and so I actually, because of my newfound love of 3D printing, I actually bought a Bohem, or Bohm. I don't know how they pronounce it, but one of their vases.
Yeah.
And I printed that out. They have these vases that look like the texture on it looks like giant brush strokes. It's really cool looking, and so I printed that out and gave it to her.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's cool. I mean,
well, Bohem, do they just sell the files, right? Is that correct?
I think you can buy complete stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's another one that's like really beautifully. I feel like there's just yeah, it just feels like there's this explosion of kind of taking 3D printing, and instead of doing like crappy 3D printed things, it's like you're creating actually beautiful objects that you would actually use, you would wear on your feet, you would put in your home, you would add a,
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that I've noticed is there's I saw there were two different videos. There's this guy, Zach Friedman, who has Void Star Labs, and he's just this like super eccentric 3D print guy. He's like always wearing I think he made it himself, but it's essentially like a Google Glass. Like he's made his own like, wearable computer. He's just like he's like a tinkerer maker kind of guy, but he's like big into 3D printing. And I guess he created this open source thing called Gridfinity, which is just like a way of like, yeah, printing out this grid system, and then you have these different like components that can fit into it. And so like, open source, so other people are designing all sorts of stuff for it.
Well, yeah, well, there's a whole drama there,
Tell me about it.
Yeah, so I didn't realize that his name, Void Star, Void Star Labs. Is that what you said?
Is that what?
Gridfinity.
Yeah, Void Star Lab.
I can't, I won't say, I can't really say exactly, who was the original, I guess, idea of, it's a modular organization for your drawers, right? Like it's not a super original idea, but there was a guy another guy on YouTube who designed this modular system. And I wish I could remember his name.
Yeah, are you talking about
he did
Alexander
yes.
Chappelle?
Yes.
Yeah, he did one for his kitchen.
Yes. I think Alexander Chappelle was the first one to do it.
Oh.
And then I think he was selling his on his website. And then Voidstar went and open sourced, made a heavily inspired design and open sourced it. I hope that's right. I don't quote me on that story, but I just know that there was some like interesting dynamic there of open source versus who created the thing.
That's funny. Yeah, I also saw that Alexander Chappelle video, and it was also, I think his system is a bit more aesthetic.
Yeah.
And Zach Friedman, his is like total, like gamer, 3D printer hobbyist aesthetic, just like, the like the RGB overload kind of thing.
Well, speaking of these 3D printed organizers,
but he's got very funny videos. I will say Zach Goodman his videos are very funny.
Yeah, it looks like Alexander Chappelle just put out a video about these 3D printed organizers for the kitchen. So maybe he's made some new improvements and stuff. I'll have to watch this because I'm curious if he makes a callback.
Is he the copier?
Well,
is he?
My beef is like no one's copying this idea of organization in your in your drawers. Like nobody has that's what I'm gonna say. Like obviously I'm really lenient when it comes to copying. It's like, guys, just move on with your life. It's like, come on.
I think the novelty is like having the grid system, having there being like this baseline grid system underneath.
Yeah.
Because there was also that guy, Scott Yu Jan, who did that. I feel like there was a viral video of like him going through his drawers and like measuring everything.
Right.
And then he 3D prints a bunch of stuff to organize a drawer. But I don't think he uses an underlying grid system to like put them in place. Mm-hmm. It just fills the void of the drawer like completely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
It's cool regardless. I mean, it's like, it's great to be able to just also print out your like organization system. I mean, I've done like a little bit of like printing of like drawers for my desk,
Yeah. But I hate to do this, but I really need to wrap up.
Yeah, that's all good, man.
It's
good
but
chat.
yeah, I highly recommend going down the 3D printing rabbit hole, mass manufacturing, 3D printing, just like, it's just like another way to think about constraints around design. Because we're all interacting with 3D printers all the time. It also just like gives you helpful ways to approach printing, like anything that you're gonna print.
Definitely. Awesome. Good app, man. Great to do a little catch up.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. As always, I'm Nick.
And I'm James.
Peace out.
Later.